one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to start our meeting tonight with announcements, and I'll start on my right with Mr. Cohen, or should I start on my left? Are you ready?
I just wanted to make an announcement for those who were not aware that there's a meeting, an open meeting on Wednesday night this week of the Sustainable Princeton Climate Action Plan. It's at 7 o'clock. I believe it is in the community room. I'm not sure what the location is, but I can
not in
find
this
out.
room.
I can find out if you want to know. Yeah.
No, I just mentioned that Corner House is having their annual event fundraiser at Mercer. Mercer Park Boat House, and it's this Friday, and it begins at 5:30. And I believe there are still tickets available if you contact Corner House. Thank you.
Yes, we're having the Neighborhood Initiative is hosting a public meeting for information, and we're going to hear from the consultant, a presentation on Wednesday at 7 p.m. in this room. There's also a session for building professionals at 4, I believe. Is that what time it is?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple announcements. One is a reminder of Thursday's session on restorative justice and school discipline at JW Middle School. Civil Rights Commission is a co-sponsor with half a dozen other community groups and school PTOs. The program is titled The Problem with Punishment, Restorative Justice, and Equity in School Discipline. It features Dr. Ann Gregory discussing the latest information about reform efforts in school discipline. She'll also highlight programming to prevent conflict and intervene constructively once conflict has occurred. I'm sure many of you saw the report last week in the New York Times that a study by the Government Accountability Office found that students of color, especially African American students, get suspended from school at nearly 3 times the rate of white students nationally. So if you'd like to know more about alternatives to out-of-school suspensions, the program is Thursday, April 12th, 7 p.m. at John Witherspoon Middle School. The first of several reminders that the Bike Advisory Committee is sponsoring Princeton Ciclavia on May 6th from 1 to 4. Quaker Road will be closed to auto traffic and will be handed over to cyclists, skaters, other human-powered vehicles, and pedestrians. The Historical Society of Princeton will again be sponsoring its Chasing George ride, which travels the towpath from Trenton to Princeton with a George Washington reenactor. And this is the 5th anniversary of Ciclavia, which is a wonderful event. So I hope to see everyone out there. Finally, the Princeton Environmental Commission's conversation with the Princeton University Green Team was rescheduled from our February meeting and is going to be April 25th, 7:30 in the community room. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will be submitting a more detailed report to the clerk for the record, but I just want to highlight that the rec department is in the process of interviewing applicants for the summer positions, and they already conducted 15 interviews last week, and we'll be doing another 15 this week. But there are still they're still taking applications for some summer employment positions, and they're available online.
Great, thank you. I had a couple announcements. First, I just wanted to give an update on affordable housing. So the council continues to work on developing a sustainable, smart growth plan that meets our affordable housing obligations, and we're assessing available options. There is a short time frame that's been set by the court, and we will need to adopt our housing element and fair share plan in advance of submitting them to the court, and they're due to the court by June 22nd. So we'll continue to work on that, and at the end, they will need to be discussed and approved in public, but we still have some details to work out. Also, the library has launched this year's Princeton Environmental Film Festival, and every year it gets better and better. I'm going to be part of a panel for the movie on Friday night. It's called Wasted, and it's about food waste at the Hopewell Theater. So if anyone's interested in that, please come. And then the Shade Tree Commission has been working with a group that has developed an app. This is one of the Code for Princeton groups, and they've developed something called Hashtag, which is to help people to crowdsourcing identifying ash trees, and they're going to be launching it on April 21st. So if you're interested in helping, it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and they're going to start at the Petronello Amphitheater in Mountain Lakes, and you're supposed to come with your smartphone, and they'll teach you how to identify ash trees and get them loaded. And this is important for those who haven't been following. There's an infestation, the emerald ash borer, which is devastating our local ash trees, and it's important for us to be able to help to contain and be proactive about responding to it if we know where the ash trees are. Are there any staff announcements? Nope. Okay. Then we will move on to approval of the minutes. We have 5 sets of minutes, and we can take.
I'll make a motion to approve all of the minutes in block.
Okay, moved by
Second.
Ms. Crumeller,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Liverman. Any comments or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes all pass. Thanks, Kathy. And next, we'll move on to comments from the public for items that are not already on the agenda, and we'll start with Sam Bunting.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So I'm Sam Bunting of 99 Dempsey Avenue. I'm here because I'd like to ask for some more details about the affordable housing plan. I understand you were meeting to talk about it tonight, and I also understand that there's a short time frame before it can go back to the court. And, you know, what I would like to encourage you to do is to open up the conversation to the town as soon as possible, because what you're dealing with is going to be some of the biggest changes to the town in many, many years. And I think, you know, the sooner you can bring people on board with what you're thinking of, or along the lines of the areas of disagreement, then the better. And, you know, obviously I understand that it's still technically a process of litigation, which is unfortunate, but despite that, I think that, you know, I really don't see any obstacle to at least starting the conversation about, there must be some things which you're fairly sure about at this point, and then there's probably some other parts that you're less sure about. And I just would like to really encourage you to try to get input as soon as possible, because, of course, some of us are going to be very supportive of the plan, if it is good. But, you know, if your plan is to hold it back until the last possible moment, then, you know, that's just going to kind of like undermine the people who might support it, and I think build up even more resistance in the town. So that's just my point, is just to encourage you to, as soon as possible, let us know what you're thinking about.
I appreciate your comments, and what you said, I think, came out of almost every single elected official's mouth during closed session, and I think it's also important for us to listen to our attorneys, even when they tell us things that we don't want to hear. But your point is well taken, and we're pushing to get this to be in the public as soon as we can, because I think we all agree with you that these changes are going to have a big impact on our community, and it's important that we listen to folks and that people feel like they have a chance to participate. So, looking at Trishka, but we hear you, and we're doing our best to do our process as quickly as we can so that we can have the public conversation. Niv?
Hi, so I'm Yael Niv from 377 Franklin Avenue, and at the risk of kind of repeating things, but because I've already written it, I'm speaking on behalf of the Princeton Progressive Action Group that Sam is also part of. We were happy to hear that a decision has been reached regarding the affordable housing obligation of Princeton, and that the mayor and council are committed to fulfilling this obligation and are confident that the town can present a feasible plan that meets this goal and adds diversity and energy to our local economy through smart growth and planning, as per the statement that the mayor and council president Krummeler made. This is a pivotal moment for Princeton, as you just said, Mayor. And a response to this requirement that is aligned with a smart growth vision for Princeton will shape the future of our town for years to come. So given the tight deadline of presenting this plan to the court, which I just heard was 22nd of June, I thought it was 24th of July, so even tighter, we would like to offer our help in perfecting this plan and ask, when will the public be informed and their input solicited in order to ensure maximum citizen participation? So you've kind of answered it, but I wanted to make that point again.
Thank you. Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
In terms of the dates, July 24th is the date the court has set forth for the compliance hearing. Everything has to be on file with the court at least 30 days ahead of time, so that's why everything has to be on file by June 22nd. And then in terms of the schedule, I think we're still working through the schedule, but I'm hoping that in short order you'll be able to tell the public when things will be going public.
And Surinder Sharma?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Surinder Sharma. I live on 237 Christopher Drive. I didn't compare my notes with Sam and others regarding the affordable housing. But before I get into that, I also like to congratulate the mayor and the council for declaring April 9th as the Paul Robeson Day. So I think that's remarkable, and thank you for that. So as far as the affordable housing is concerned, I think Sam already mentioned that very clearly. Like, the public would like to know what the plans are as soon as possible, so we can contribute to your plans and effectively and proactively. So that's one thing. Second part of that is also, I was looking at the budgets. I didn't see any capital allocations for the affordable housing for this year or coming year. So I was wondering if that's an oversight, or is there something hidden there that I didn't see? So I'd like to kind of get some comments on that as well. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Mark, do you want to speak to that?
One comment, and it kind of clear up some confusion. As we go through this plan, a lot of what's in the affordable housing plan will be inclusionary zoning, which will not require capital expenditures through the municipality. So that's why you do not see anything in in the plan in terms of capital expenditures. There may be at some point, once we develop the plan fully, where there may be some capital expenditures that we'll have against those, but the majority of the plan is through inclusionary zoning.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe there's some infrastructure that will be required around the housing and so on and so forth. So that's what I was driving at, which is kind of municipality responsibility, so.
We don't foresee any additional infrastructure required for the plan.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak as part of public comment? Valerie?
Hi, I'm Valerie Haynes, 223 Mount Lucas Road. Sorry I didn't get up here and sign up. One of the announcements prompted my memory. At the last neighborhood character meeting, the consultant presented a rather extensive set of slides and PowerPoint, I guess. And I thought that at the conclusion of that meeting, the understanding was that they were going to try and make that available through the website prior to the next meeting. And I don't, maybe it's because I haven't mastered the new website, but I couldn't find anything. So I wondered if that is still the plan, and if so, either where it is or when will it be up?
That's a good question, and we can try to get whatever materials there are up today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow,
Okay.
so that
All
people
right.
have it before Wednesday.
Okay.
But
Thank
thanks
you.
for the reminder. Anybody else who'd like to speak? Sorry, I thought you were getting up. You're just stretching. Okay, so if there's nobody else who'd like to comment, I'll close public comment. And I just want to say, like, the public comment tonight makes me just really glad to live in a community like Princeton. And thank you for your support of affordable housing. It is something that's one of the things that helps make Princeton Princeton. And we're working hard to put together a plan that I think is going to help lead us into the next decade in a positive way. So thank you. And now we'll move on to reports. And to mix things up, I'll start on my left with Ms. Fraga. Do you have any reports?
No.
Okay. Mr. Quinn?
I have one report, Mayor, and you caught me flat-footed here, so let's see if I can grab it. Oh, I just wanted to report that Councilwoman Fraga, Councilman Liverman, and I will resume our review process of the first year of the Civil Rights Commission. We have a few more current and former commissioners and some staff to interview, and we'll notify council at our next meeting. I'm assuming that we'll be able to make our May 1st deadline, but we'll know at our next meeting whether we'll need additional time. That's all. Thank you.
Ms. Krummeller? Mr. Liverman?
Yeah, I just want to report that the Housing Authority, Princeton Housing Authority, has entered into a contractual agreement with Ms. Diane Johnson, who is a retired director of HUD for Newark, New Jersey. She held a pretty large job there for many years, and she understands HUD and the many things that you have to do in order to have a successful housing authority. So we're transitioning into new management as we speak. So I just wanted to announce that Ms. Johnson has been retained for at least, we're foreseeing maybe a year or so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cohen? Okay, I have a few reports. Let's see. The first one is the Shade Tree Commission, in addition to the Ash Tree app. They're working on a brochure to educate residents about volcanoes, which are those mounds of mulch that people put at the base of their trees. And the short message is don't do that. It's bad for your tree. You want to push it out. And as your tree gets taller every year, your mulch should spread out wider under the tree and away from the trunk. I also wanted to ask to see if there was consensus from council to put a resolution on our next agenda. There's a group that's working to extend voting rights for people who have felony convictions, and this is not right now. If you're once you've served your sentence in New Jersey, your voting rights get restored, but this is extending voting rights to people who are currently in prison, on parole, and on probation. So I've actually asked Civil Rights Commission to weigh in on this, hopefully before our next meeting. But if there's consensus, I wanted to be able to put it on for the next meeting because there's an effort right now to push for legislation at the state level. Okay, great. And then another report, or maybe this is an announcement, that as part of the Bloomberg Challenge work, we've hired a project manager for the team, and that's going to be Matt Wasserman. And the money all comes out of the Bloomberg grant. But we really do need somebody who's going to be cracking the whip and making sure that we're making progress every week. So I'm excited to announce that that he's signed up to do that. The Economic Development Committee met with I think last week, the week before, week before, and they now have a page up on the website with some resources and some of the projects that they're working on. So for people who are interested, I encourage you to look at that. Are there any staff reports? Mr. DeShield?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to give council an update on a couple of personnel issues. One, as you know, we lost our arborist. I'm glad to report that we have extended an offer to a new arborist. At this point, we're still going through the process, so I'm going to hold back on the name. But I did have an opportunity to interview with the selected candidate. He's an exceptional candidate. So you'll be hearing about that soon. In addition, as part of the process with the retirement of the planning board planner, we will need to do one more PSA, and that will be for the code consolidation issues that we'll have to do. I'll likely be bringing that to you at the next meeting, and that will be the final PSA to take care of that position. We will formally go out for an application probably in July of this year once we've gone through. We've got all these processes we need to go through, including affordable housing, that we need to get through first. So that's the plan.
Thanks, Mark. All right, and now we'll move on to the highlight of tonight's meeting, which is the 2018 municipal budget. And we will start with the public hearing on the amendment to the 2018 municipal budget. Either Ms. Webb or Mr. DeShield, can you just summarize what the amendment entailed?
Sure. The amendment would provide a use of additional $1 million in surplus. That will be applied in the following ways. We will add an additional $1 million to surplus. That will be applied against, on the expenditure side, $626,000 to deferred charges for future taxation unfunded. That's what we call our cash capital, and that will pay down some of the debt that we're authorizing this year. In addition, we will reduce the amount to be raised by taxation by $372,000. And again, that's the amount to be raised by taxes. That would then reduce the amount of the increase in the levy this year to zero.
Okay, great. And before we open up the public hearing, I just want to once again thank our professional staff for bringing us a budget with no tax increase. And I also want to thank our Citizens Finance Advisory Committee. and I also want to just make the point that this is done, I think everybody always wants to put together a budget with no tax increase, and it's easy to do that. I think it's harder to put one together that's responsible, and this is a responsible budget this year. The Citizens Finance Advisory Committee helped council put together a policy in terms of our surplus and keeping it within a certain percentage of our whole budget. And even though we're using some of the surplus, the projections show that we will still fall within that range. So I think that's an important point to make. One of the goals we've had is to try to do more with cash capital instead of going out to bond for certain things. And so I think it's also really great to see that in this year's budget. So thank you. Thank you to Sandy, especially, and to Mark. So with that, I'd like to open up the public hearing on the amendment. If anybody would like to speak, please come to the mic. All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and move
I'll
on
make a
to.
motion.
Okay.
To approve?
So Ms. Krummeller has moved the resolution adopting the 2018 municipal budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cohen. Do you need a roll call for this, or can we do it by, need a roll call? Okay, then please call the roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Krummiller?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
And the resolution is approved unanimously. Next, we come to our first ordinance public hearing for this evening, 2018-7, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by Princeton in the County of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $9,307,670, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $8,842,286 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance part of the cost thereof. Just when we start, I know Mr. Quinn needs to recuse on the section that has to do with the library, but I just wanted to open up the discussion if there's any questions from council on any of the items aside from section D. And if not, then I think you're I think you're good to go. All right. And are there any questions about the library section of the bond ordinance? Nope. Okay. Then I'd like to open up the public hearing for this bond ordinance. Would anybody like to speak? All right. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Krummeller, seconded by Mr. Liverman. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Krummiller?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
And the bond ordinance passes unanimously. Excellent. Welcome back. We missed you, Tim. All right. Next is 2018-8, an ordinance appropriating $286,000 from sewer connection fees for various improvements in and by Princeton in the County of Mercer, New Jersey. Are there any questions from council on this? I'd like to open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Moved by Ms. Krummeller.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Quinn. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Krummiller?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn? Yes. Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
And the ordinance passes unanimously. Next, we come to 2018-9, bond ordinance providing for various improvements to the parking utility in and by Princeton in the County of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $1,583,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,583,000 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance the cost thereof. Are there any questions from council? Mr. Cohen?
I'm sorry I didn't send this question earlier, and I'm not necessarily expecting an answer, but the amount that's appropriated for new parking meters, I think that number was generated when we thought we were going to get all new meters and that there's some consideration of using a mixed kiosk and meter system. I'm wondering, if that number has been reviewed in light of the evolving technology that we're talking about using.
We actually haven't gone through that process of doing that evaluation yet, so what you see in front of you is still assuming that we'll do all of the meters at this point. We're hoping to do that in the next couple of weeks. We'll begin that analysis and make a determination at that point.
Yep, Mr.
Mayor.
Quinn?
The vehicles for parking enforcement, are they the electric carts or are they separate vehicles? And if so, can we prioritize a hybrid or an electric vehicle purchase when making that $34,000 purchase?
We can, and I would have to look into it. I'm not sure if they're the electric or the others, but we can definitely prioritize. And as council also knows, part of what Public Works is doing this year is evaluating the use of the electric vehicles. So that'll be a part of the process as we actually go to purchase these vehicles.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions from council, I'd like to open up the public hearing for this ordinance. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and see if there's a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second?
So it's moved by Ms. Kremler, seconded by Ms. Fraga. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Crummiller?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
And the ordinance is approved unanimously. Next is 2018-10, bond ordinance providing for sanitary sewer system and road reconstruction projects in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $1,500,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,500,000 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance the costs thereof. Are there any questions from council before we open up the public hearing? Okay, I'd like to open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and ask if there's a motion to approve.
So moved?
Moved by Mr. Liverman
Second?
and seconded by Mr. Cohen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Liverman?
Yes.
Ms. Crummiller?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
And the ordinance is approved unanimously. Next, we come to resolutions. The first resolution is 18-146, resolution authorizing a payment of $168,768 to the Princeton Public Schools for 2017-2018 school year hazardous busing transportation costs. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Moved by Ms. Fraga.
Second?
Seconded by Ms. Krummeller. I just wanted to note, this was in the memo, but the engineering department is collaborating with the school district's transportation department to review all of these routes and to see if there's areas where we should be prioritizing sidewalks, new sidewalk construction, and I think we're continuing to look at the at this relationship. Are there any questions or additional comments from council? Nope. Okay. Is there? Oh, I guess it's already on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Next is 18-147. Resolution authorizing a professional services agreement with Banish Associates Incorporated for planning services, affordable housing, for the term of 1 year in an amount not to exceed $20,000. And as you heard Mr. DeShield earlier, this is to provide those services with the retirement of our planner, Lee Solo. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cohen. Is there seconded by Mr. Liverman? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Next, we can come to our consent agenda, which contains items of a routine nature. Are there any items anybody would like removed from?
Yeah,
The
I'd like
list.
to remove item number 2.
Okay. Any other items? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 and then items 3 through 8?
So moved?
Moved by Ms. Krummeller. Is there
Second.
seconded by Mr. Liverman? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those items on the consent agenda passed unanimously. Next we come to 18149, resolution authorizing the Princeton tax collector to abate all real property taxes on Block 4301 Lot 4 and Block 4401 Lot 1, Princeton tax map, once title to said property is conveyed to the New Jersey Conservation Foundation, a nonprofit corporation. And Mr. Cohen, you had a question?
Yeah, it's not so much a question, but the issue that I have with this is that it's my understanding from discussion with Mr. Solo that the transfer of these properties from the Copperwood housing parcel to the nonprofit will actually reduce the size of the Copperwood lot below the density that ordinarily would be allowed for approval. And it's my understanding, again, from Mr. Solo, that it was intended at the time that this was approved by the planning board, that as long as the property is held in, in this conservation easement in perpetuity, that the board did not have an objection to change of ownership. But I would like a chance to review the language of the planning board resolution authorizing the project, just to get comfortable with the fact, because obviously when it changes hands from a for-profit entity to a nonprofit entity, we're losing tax revenue. And, I'd like an opportunity to review that approval and see if there's a way to not lose the tax revenue by virtue of the way the resolution was worded, and just satisfy myself that it really was in keeping with the spirit of what the planning board wanted to have happen.
Okay.
I support that. I also would like more details about the tax agreement, because just like I've questioned other arrangements like this, what are we getting for it that we don't already have? But we're losing taxes.
I just want to comment. I think it's fine. I don't mind delaying this, but I do remember that this was a long haul, this whole Copperwood, and how the deals were worked out. It was, I think that the mayor was on when we did this.
I think we sat next to each other
We sat
when
next
this
to
was
each
voted
other when all
on.
this was voted on, and it was a long process, and it was almost an agreement that this was going to take place. So I don't mind us looking into it, but I remember this extremely well, how we moved to this stage where it would be transferred to this place. So, but you can, I don't mind waiting, but I remember this very well.
So would we table, do you need
I
a
don't know
motion
if
to
we-
table? Or?
I think we could just not act on it. We just
Okay.
not act on it, right? Yeah. Kathy, can you put it on our next agenda for the 26th? Is that, when are we meeting next? 24th? 23rd?
Third.
Right, I'll be here.
Move it to that agenda.
And yeah, just to pencil it in, and then if Mr. Cohen, if you haven't, if you're not ready by then, just let me know. We can pull it off. Okay, great. All right, it's before 8 o'clock, and I don't think we've done this since we've consolidated. So
Why don't we think of something else to discuss?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
Yes, she's.